is an example, and I say I'm an adventurer. It talks about speaker and adventurer. So there's and that covers a lot. And speaker and adventurer and consultant in health and security. And so this kind of tells people that I have certain qualifications. Now, it's still kind of general. You really don't know. And I say, you really don't know. Wow, what's that? It must be mine. What did I find? See what I just found? An American dime. And got the wrong glasses on. I can't read the date. But I think it might be a silver dime. So, but anyway, your card would be some kind of identification to kind of help people understand who you are. And so that I would say would be a good thing, because I always talk about it. You need skills and abilities, and you can't always show them these skills or abilities. That's why a business card like that would pretty much help people understand what it is that you're doing. Let's see, another thing that I thought was kind of odd is as tourists, they're not real observant. Travelers are more observant than tourists. When we crossed the border in Mexico, I carried my Leatherman on my belt, and I got a pocket knife with a clip on it. And I was profiled coming in. Remember, I talk about it. They're always like that. And so I went in, I got my passport stamped, and the guy was profiling me the whole time. But you got to remember, I'm nice. I'm easygoing. I enjoy people. I'm not a troublemaker. I mean, everything's good. And so he kept checking me out, profiling me, trying to figure out exactly what it is. And then I came out, and then I'm waiting for, I talked about it, I'm waiting for the rest of the people on the shuttle. And so I started talking to him, and he could see I don't speak much Spanish. So he asked about my Leatherman, and and he wanted to know how much it was. And I told him about almost $100. So, and I showed him, a pair of pliers. He already knew what it was. Of course he did. That's part of the profiling. He's looking for an excuse to talk to me, and that's what we started talking about. And so I talked to him, and no big deal. And then he says, "Well, how about the knife in your pocket?" And I made a point, and I mentioned it. Now, I got some small pocket knives that I carry when I'm traveling foreign countries, because I say you get the larger pocket knives, everybody gets scared. So I showed them my small pocket knife, stuff like that. So, but the thing is, anybody that carries 2 or more knives are more than likely skilled with knives. And so I'm sure that's what he was profiling me for, to see how much skilled I am with these knives. So, and but like I say, it was funny because after I got back on the bus, I asked anybody if they see the immigration guy questioning me, and nobody saw it at all. So tourists, the mentality as they travel is a whole lot different. And now I understand why tourists are targeted in certain countries as being, terrorists target them. I understand that really well right now. I thought it was because it was the older, because I always think the older people. I see there wasn't no older people. Nobody was old. And but I say now maybe when you're on cruise ships and fancy tourist towns. This is Mexican tourist town, just like we have Guatemala tourist towns. They're really cheap. I gave you examples about the prices and stuff. So now maybe when the more expensive places, the older people maybe are there, where they're being served even more. But I'm not sure. Like I said, I don't think I've been to any of them. Disneyland, I've been to Disneyland. And but like I say, I've never been to one of these tourist towns or something where you stay there for days and days at a time. Not these fancy tourist towns. But anyway, there is a big difference, and tourists are they're ripe for being victimized. They are really ripe. A traveler is a little different. We're more aware of what's going on. We've had the experience. That's why I think it's odd how people get pickpocketed. I've been in a lot of places where pickpocketing is a big thing. But now we're right back to, I don't let anybody get close to me. I've talked about that. We have our personal space, and I don't let people get in that personal space. Even in crowds, it's hard to get close to me in crowds. But travelers are a different type of person. Now I understand more when people talk about their more they call it more worldly person, and what they mean is somebody that, and I always thought they meant they travel, because when you travel you learn a lot. But I think a lot of this falls into tourists. Just because you travel and they're tourists, they think, well, I've been to third world country. I mean, I don't know how many people, even now, people say, well, I've been to Guatemala. Yeah, they get off the cruise boat, they go into town, and then they go back on the cruise boat, and they say, yeah, I've been in Guatemala. You're not a traveler. I guarantee you're not. You're still a tourist. And I find this a lot. I flew to Cancun. I've been in Mexico. I flew to Cancun. And that's why I tell people, I say, I've been to Cancun twice. Both times I drove. Once I drove in a car, and once I drove on a motorcycle with a dog. And, there's a big difference between driving to Cancun and flying to Cancun. And so when I think of somebody being worldly, and I understand now, because I mean, it was really apparent, because even when I was their age, in my 20s, I was much more worldly than what these students. One was the architect. Not all were students. They're all 20-some years old. One was an electrician, teacher, and stuff like that. But I say I was much more worldly. But you got to remember, I was already in Vietnam at 18. I was married to a Chinese woman from Guatemala by 22. So when I was in my 20s, I was pretty worldly already. And, I was already down here in Guatemala in the 20s. And I'm not talking about in a tour area, even though, and that's why it was funny, because my wife's family, when we first got married, they were concerned about me being down here. I couldn't speak the language. And so I didn't want to stay at the hotel. I was ready to get off and go places. And they were concerned about me, my safety and stuff. And yes, they were having a revolution at that time. But I say, I was already worldly from Vietnam. So it makes a big difference getting out and traveling. I mean, a very, very big difference. I mentioned I've been watching The Walking Dead, and I said if you apply everything I talk about on the three-man militia to The Walking Dead, they wouldn't have any problems at all. Uh, but like I say, it's TV. You know, they're trying to make all this stuff happen. But like I say, they're the TV and the movies are made up to show people that aren't worldly, that don't have experience. And when they see this stuff, they see, oh wow, it's an adventure movie, you know, something like that. And it's because they're impressed because they don't know what's going on. That's why I say it's a whole lot different world life than the movies and TV. And that's why when I talk about things, a lot of times people want to argue with me. And I think it's funny because they're arguing with me, and I don't mind people disagreeing with me, but their judgments are based on TV and movies, you know. So they really don't know what it is that they're talking about. You know, I mean, just because you get all the equipment, you think you know what's going on. That's why I say gun shows. I don't go to gun shows because people buy a gun, they think, well, now I can protect myself. You know, so they have no idea what kind of dangers are out there.